Good evening, everybody. Here we are, all together again. The City of Peabody Zoning Board of Appeals meets remotely tonight in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40A, and Governor Baker's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. Individuals may participate remotely in the meeting via a participation platform called Zoom. Tonight's hearing will be conducted in the following manner. The secretary, Mr. Senzabar, will read the legal notice. The chairwoman will invite the applicant or applicant's representative to present to the board. The chair may limit the length of all remarks. All parties will be given an opportunity to speak in favor or in opposition and must keep to the subject. The board may receive similar written communications to be placed on the public record. The chair will ask those who would like to speak either in favor or against to use the raise hand feature, which is somewhere on your screen. If by chance you don't have it, raise your hand and our secretary will be able to unmute you. We'll let you know that it's your turn. Those calling in via telephone will be asked if they would like to speak on the matter. If you have already sent in a letter, we will read that into the record. Anyone with their hand raised will be called upon, unmuted, and at that point you will speak on the matter at hand. You must first state your name and address for the record and identify if you are in favor or against, in opposition to the applicant's proposal. The applicant will be afforded the time to answer any of the questions posed. Once all the questions by the abutters and board members are answered, the board will vote. Chair will ask for a roll call vote at all times. Chair will reiterate the outcome. Either you have passed or it is denied. Applicant may log off and will receive an email with instructions on Tuesday from Mrs. McGrath, the secretary. The chair will move on to the next agenda item and reserves the right to change the order of the agenda as she sees necessary. Tonight we will be going in order. Please be prepared to present at any time during this very different zoning board meeting. So we are going to start with a continued application of Peter Graziani for a sign of 122 Foster Street. And Dan, you'll have to read that legal notice, dear.
Okay, even though it was continued?
Well, it's been continued because of the COVID. We never really heard it.
Gotcha. Okay. Notice is hereby given that the Board of Appeals of the City of Peabody will hold a public hearing on Monday, March 16th at the Wigan Auditorium, obviously continued to tonight, July 6th, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass. On the application of Peter Graziani for variance from the provision of the zoning ordinance 2019 as amended section 11.8H as it applies to the premises known as 122 Foster Street, Peabody, map 94, lot 10. Petitioner seeks a variance to allow for a rooftop sign where no rooftop signs are allowed. Property is located in a BN2 zoning district. The application and plan are available to the public and can be viewed at the City Clerk's office and Board of Appeals office, City Hall in advance and prior to the public hearing.
Hello. Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Graziani.
Hi. So my name is Christopher Gerasi, and I am the property manager for Peter. Peter is exiting the room. He's disposed. He should be here momentarily. But I can speak on his behalf, but in about 10 seconds, he's going to come walking out of the other room. But basically, we had to replace the roof. We had to take the sign off. Oh, Peter, out of the... All right. Basically, he had to replace the roof. Hello. he had to replace the roof because we had a leak in it. We took the sign off the roof, replaced it, put a smaller one on the side. It's on top now.
Yep, and then they told me to just go through the board to make sure that I can put the roof, the sign back on.
So is that you, Mr. Graziani, talking?
Yes.
Okay, please just state your name and address, please, dear.
Yeah, Peter Graziani, 221 North Main Street, Middleton, Mass.
Okay, continue.
Yeah, so basically those leak on the roof, and I took the sign down to replace the roof, and they told me to go in front of the board to make sure that I can put the sign back where a smaller sign. It's much smaller. I don't know if you guys have the picture, but it's like way smaller than what it was. They used to wrap around the whole corner of the building. Now I just put like a little 3 foot by like 6 foot sign. Kristen said that. Do they see it?
Yeah. Let's see.
Do they see us? Probably. Are they still there or not? Yeah. They just put us on hold? Probably.
Fran, you're on mute.
Sorry. Questions by the board. When
Yeah.
you have questions, just remember to unmute yourself. When you're done speaking, board members, mute yourself back. Any questions or comments or concerns by the board members? I'm sure we all had time to go by. I know most of us did. So hearing none, the matter is before the board.
Fran, first, so anybody in favor or in opposition?
Absolutely, thank you. Is there anybody in the Zooming audience that would like to speak either in favor or in opposition of this sign? If you are, please raise your hand.
I see a hand, Fran, just so you know. You're on mute still, Madam Chair.
The phone call 1277, would you like to speak?
Is that your number?
That's my number.
No.
No.
Do we have anybody else that would like to speak?
Fran, I see Ann at large has her hand up.
Ann, do you want to speak?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
I just zoomed in, so could you tell me which sign this is? I'm sorry.
This is number 1, Foster Street,
Thank you.
122 Foster.
I have no input. Thank you.
It looks like that's it for participation and comments. So hearing none, now the matter is before the board.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second, this is Dan Sensabaugh, seconding.
Barry, move to approve.
I'll second that as well.
Roll call vote, please.
Dan,
Yes,
Barry,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Stephen?
Yes.
Fran,
Yes. So that motion has passed. You will get an email from Carla tomorrow explaining everything else. Thank you very much. We're now on to number 2, James and Pauline Boland.
notice is hereby given that the Board of Appeals of the City of Peabody will hold a public hearing via Zoom remote participation on Monday, July 6th, 2020, 7 p.m. on the application of James and Pauline Boland for a variance from the provision of the zoning ordinance 2019 as amended section 7.2 as it applies to the premises known as 4 Randall Road, Peabody, map 18, lot 12. Petitioner seeks a variance for a 2-car garage and requires relief to the right side yard setback. Properties in an R1 zoning district. The application and plan are available to the public and can be viewed by contacting Carla McGrath at carla.mcgrath@pbdmass.gov or 978-538-5792 in advance and prior to the public hearing. The agenda for this meeting and instructions on how to access the remote participation platform are posted on the City of Peabody website.
Okay, do we have James or Pauline Boland ready to present? If you are, you need to unmute yourself, state your name and address for the record, and tell us what you want.
Hi, this is Pauline, accompanied by Jim Boland. Address is 4 Randall Road, Peabody. We are the homeowners pending occupation of the property.
And what are you here tonight looking for?
We're proposing to build a 2-car garage as indicated. You know, we have the side setback we know is 20 and we are asking for 10.9. The garage is something we're, actually feel that we're in need of. We're both 71 years old and we want to get our cars out of the weather for the winter, that being one point. But the main point is we need somewhere to put our utilities. The furnace is still located in the kitchen. And due to a garage conversion family room beside the kitchen, the oil lines run from the tank outside around the perimeter of the family room, around the kitchen to the furnace. So that's about 65 feet. So for us, that was the safety issue that we hesitated to move in with that condition existing. And, we know it can be corrected. We've already consulted with people. So that would be the furnace in the kitchen being relocated to the garage. The oil tank, which is outside currently, would also be housed then in the garage. And there is a hot water tank in what would be our bedroom closet, which doesn't appear to have a pan under it, which also then could be located to the garage. So there would be, the 2 cars in the garage, the furnace, the oil tank, and, water heater. So we're very anxious to move in, but we'd like to really get the garage up so that we have a place to move these things to.
Okay, that's a very good presentation. Thank you. Do we have questions or comments from the board?
Through the chair, if I could. I certainly agree with the petitioner. This makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, just the safety part of this, a relocation of utilities would weigh greatly on my mind. Just one question to the petitioner. I'm looking at your picture. This is a single story garage, right?
Yes.
Okay. I have no problems. The only thing I see in the packet is one letter, and that's in favor. So I would have no problem approving this. Thank you.
Okay, I do know that I've been by the house and I agree with you 100%, Barry, especially after hearing Mrs. Boland. I think that this is the only way that she could alleviate all those problems. There was a letter in favor, which was rescinded and then became in opposition. I believe they're here to speak tonight. Are you the 1277?
Fran, there's a hand up, and it's Nancy Hodge has her hand up.
If there is, I'm just going to go right to the participation right now. If there is anybody in the audience that would like to speak in favor or in opposition, please, I believe it's Nancy Hodge. You may speak. Thank you very much.
Okay. We had originally signed a consent to this garage when we were fine with the 1-car garage, and I understand our house is the same way. We had all the utilities in the house and everything, and it was all moved out before we moved in. So I have no problem with a 1-car garage. I just think that they went from a 1-car garage to a 2-car garage plus the utilities, and this 10-foot variance is quite a lot. we're trying to keep the integrity of the neighborhood and keep space between the houses. So like I said, I told Jim I had no problem with 1-car garage, but 2 is, I'm not in favor of.
Okay, the only comment I have on that was, so when they went for the variance initially, it was, I believe, 24 by 24. So the size never changed. Perhaps there was a little confusion of a 1-car or 2-car garage, but the size of what they're actually asking for now and for in the past, that size has always remained the same.
Well, when I first signed the letter that he asked me to sign, Jim asked me to sign for my approval, he pointed out exactly where the garage would end or where the car would go. He never told me anything about 2 cars. He told me 1 car. He said he had an antique car that he needed to put in there. And that was all I had heard. I heard nothing about 2-car garage. So this has all changed since my initial.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Anybody else on the board? I don't believe there's anybody else in the audience. Anybody from the board that would like to speak?
Hello?
Through the chair.
I just want to make sure, phone 1277,
Oh, okay.
are you here?
Yes, I'm here, but I don't need to say anything.
Thank you very much. Hearing, that I believe this is, oh, Barry, you have a question?
Stephen did.
Yeah, I just had a, through the chair, to Mr. and Mrs. Boland. If this were to be approved, have you spoken to the any plumbers or gas fitters or whoever it might be that would need to relocate these utilities?
Yes, we did speak with a plumber and gas fitter who did come over and look to make sure that it was just one zone and said that it would be no problem to move the furnace and the other thing would, you know, the water heater would, you know, not be a problem.
Okay, Steve?
If I may, again, through the chair, with the garage being a 24 by 24 garage, whether we call it a 1-car or 2-car, just given that size, was the size of that in order to fit 2 cars, or is that an amount of space required for 1 car plus the utilities?
It was always for 2 cars plus utilities. We do have 2 cars that we both drive that we would like to get out of the weather in the winter and also have room for the utilities. We, even between the 2 of us, we never discussed a 1-car garage. It was in our heads and in our conversations. It was always a 2-car garage.
My husband wanted to say something. It's Nancy Hodge again. I know when I spoke to Jim originally, it was a 1-car garage specifically for this antique car. He had said nothing about parking 2 cars in the garage. But my husband wants to say something.
Yeah, and I was under the same impression, 1-car garage, and I was assuming maybe a couple feet variance, not 10 feet of a 20-foot variance. And also, we've looked around our neighborhood, and there are, I don't see there are any other homes in the area that have had gone over this much of feet, but not 10 feet of the 20-foot. I think you're going to change what it looks like if we're all going to start going 10 feet to the property line.
Through the chair?
So I believe that the garage is not going to be any closer to the property line as their shed. Okay, Dan.
I have a question for Mr. and Mrs. Hodge. I'm envisioning them still standing at the podium with their opposition. So my question for Mr. and Mrs. Hodge is, when you reviewed the survey and the plot plan indicating the location of the garage and its distance from your property, did you review the plot plan and survey that was submitted with this application, or did you review something different?
We just got this recently. We looked at it, we talked to Jim, and my wife did, I didn't. And he said he was gonna review it, and I thought he was gonna make some changes from what I was understanding.
I got a copy of the plot plan, of the plan from Carla. And the shed issue, the property goes to an angle. So the property line is, I don't know what the distance is back there with the shed, but the property is at an angle. So there's more room back there.
Okay, let me ask it again, maybe a different way. You signed a letter dated February 26,
Yeah.
2020,
Yes.
that acknowledges that you saw something.
No, Jim told us he had an antique car. He wanted to garage it. So I was thinking, one car garage is gonna be maybe 2 feet of variance. So we had no problem with that, a one car garage.
All right, let me read the letter into the record and let me know if you have a recollection of either one of you signing off on this letter.
Mhm.
February 26, 2020, City of Peabody Zoning Board of Appeals. In the Ray line, proposed addition of garage at 4 Randall Road. We have seen the survey plot plan indicating the exact location of the garage and its distance from our property. We are the direct abutters at 6 Randall Road. We have no objection to the proposed project, period. Lehman and Nancy Hodge, 6 Randall Road, Peabody, Mass. 01960. Did you guys sign that letter?
I did not sign off on that.
I signed the letter, but I honest to God don't remember seeing a plot plan or a detailed plan. All I went by was that it was the one car garage, and he had pointed out exactly where on the property it would be.
And I was told the same
That-
thing. I was told
That's not
where
what
it
the
would
letter
be.
says, so I don't have any further questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, I think we have a good picture of this.
Yeah,
Why
if I
don't we,
could. Through the chair,
yep,
I have a question for the Bolins. Is that wood fence still existing?
Yes, it's a 6-foot stockade fence.
All right, and if I'm looking at your plot plan correct, the 10 foot that's going to require the variance at its lowest, at its least point is right at the beginning of this addition. And then the way the plot plan goes, it seems like it angles out so that even at the end of the condition of the addition, looks like you might have what, 15 to 20 feet from the lot line?
It's possible, but I do have here the piece of paper that we did show to them. I don't know, can you see this?
I think I can if Kyle lets me see it. I don't know.
It's a very large piece of paper survey plan.
Is it from,
Audie and Dwyer.
yeah, I have that. Thank you very, and that's what I'm referencing here. And it looks like, you know,
Yeah.
that 10 feet is only for a very small distance. I know the abutters had some concerns that it's a 10-foot variance, but really it's only a 10-foot variance for maybe, I don't know, 10 feet, 15 feet. So again, as much as I understand your concerns, I would have no problem with this. Thank you.
I agree, it's an odd shaped lot, but that piece of paper I showed you was the piece of paper we brought out and put on the hood of the car to show, you know, what we were doing.
okay, thank you. Hearing no other questions by the board. Let's,
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second it, Julie Picardi.
Motion to approve?
I'll second that as well.
roll call vote.
Dan,
Yes.
Barry,
You're still muted.
Yes. Did I get it this time?
Julie,
Yes.
Stephen,
Yes.
Fran,
yes. Motion is approved. You will get an email tomorrow from Carla. Thank you very much. Number 3, I am recusing myself from number 3. Eddie, that means you have voting privileges for number 3, okay? Eddie,
Okay.
thank you.
Notice is hereby given that the Board of Appeals of the City of Peabody will hold a public hearing via Zoom remote participation on Monday, July 6, 2020, at 7 p.m. on the application of Danielle Karen for a variance from the provision of the zoning ordinance 2019 as amended section 7.2, as it applies to the premises known as 11 Anthony Road, Peabody, map 73, lot 45. Petitioner seeks a variance to construct a garage and requires relief to the right side yard and front yard setback. The property is in an R1A zoning district. The application and plan are available to the public and can be viewed by contacting Carla McGrath at carla.mcgrath@peabodymass.gov or 978-538-5792 in advance and prior to the public hearing. The agenda for this meeting and instructions on how to access the remote participation platform are posted on the City of Peabody website. And Stephen Zelotis, do you want to step in for Fran on this one? And then,
Sure thing. There we go. So is Danielle Karen or her representative present?
Yes.
All
I'm
right,
Anthony.
go ahead.
I am Anthony Karen, her father. I will be speaking for her. My home address is 28 Horahan Street in Peabody. And what we're doing is we're turning an existing breezeway garage into a family room, and would like to construct a garage in front of the existing garage now. We're looking for side, as it is right now, we have property approximately 7 feet on the right-hand side where it would be alongside that way there. So we're looking for relief there and also on the street side as well.
Okay, I do have one question. One of the only concerns I saw with this was, at least in my mind, how far in front of the house this garage would extend. Looks like it would extend about another 10 feet past that. Have you spoken to your neighbors about this?
Yes. Yes, we have. We have spoke, both my daughter and myself have spoken to the one on the right-hand side, which I believe is Mr. Raponi. And they did not have an issue with it.
Okay. Is there any concern about visibility with that garage coming out that extra 10 feet or so?
Basically, I'm coming 20 feet in front of the existing garage. So it'll be approximately 16, plus or minus 16 feet from the garage to the street.
Okay, those are the only questions I had. Anybody else from the board have any questions or comments?
Through the chair, if I could. To the petitioner, so the addition is not coming out any further, or the new garage is not coming out any further than the existing garage to the property line. Is that correct?
That is correct. It is staying in line with the existing garage. We're just coming closer to the street side.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I have no problems with
I just need to know if 1277 is here for this one. Hi, caller 1277.
Muted.
No.
Okay, Stephen.
Okay, anybody else from the board have anything else to add?
Hi, this is Eddie Colbert. As I deal with all the locations and proposals, I have driven by this area and it totally makes sense to me. I wouldn't have any problem with it, especially if he's talked to his neighbors and they do not have an issue.
I have only spoken to the one neighbor to the right-hand side, which would affect them the most.
Right.
And they did not have a problem. And I also spoke with a woman across the, or my daughter spoke to the woman across the street, and she would not have an issue with that as well.
Okay, thank you. With nobody else from the board needing or looking to speak, is there anybody else in the audience in favor, looking to speak in favor of this petition? Seeing no hands, Is there anybody looking to speak in opposition against this petition? Seeing no hands, the matter is before the board. Just need a vote for close the public hearing.
Move to
Motion
close the public hearing.
And I'll second Barry's motion to close. This is Dan Sensible.
Barry Osborne moved to approve.
Second.
Dan,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Stephen,
Yes. Okay, the petition passes, and you'll receive correspondence from the clerk, Carla McGrath. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Number 4, Jonathan Lapham.
Notice is hereby given that the Board of Appeals of the City of Peabody will hold a public hearing via Zoom remote participation on Monday, July 6th, 7 p.m. on the application of Jonathan Lapham for a variance from the provision of the zoning ordinance 2019 as amended section 7.2, as it applies to the premises known as 3 Sheffield Drive, Peabody, map 52, lot 72. Petitioner seeks variance for an addition and requires the relief to the rear yard setback. Properties in R1A zoning district. Application and plan are available to the public and can be viewed by contacting Carla McGrath at carla.mcgrath@peabodymass.gov or 978-538-5792 in advance and prior to the public hearing. The agenda for this meeting and instructions on how to access the remote participation platform are posted on the City of Peabody website.
Okay, Mr. Lapham, let's hear it.
My name's Jonathan Lapham. I live at 3 Sheffield Drive. We're looking to put a sunroom in the back of our house. We have a new deck that would be going in, and the only setback we have is the distance. We have an odd-shaped yard, so we only have 24 feet to the rear property line. And I think we need 30. I think 35 is what you'd normally need. So that's pretty much, I think, our only setback. Okay.
Through the chair. This does look like an odd-shaped lot, as the petitioner stated. It's a pie-shaped lot. This is the exact kind of hardship that we would typically approve for. I've got no issue with this. I think the board should vote in favor of it.
Absolutely, my thoughts exactly. Anybody else on the board? Would you like to ask a question?
No, just through the chair, just in that comment, I certainly agree. I don't see where there's anywhere else where we could put it with that shaped lot. So there certainly is a hardship here that his lot is shaped in such a way that I don't think he could do it any other place, to be honest with
Your lucky night, Mr. Lapham. You have an odd-shaped lot.
Thank you.
Anybody in the audience at home wanting to speak in favor or in opposition? Telephone person number 1277, are you here for this one?
No.
Okay, thank you.
you. Move to close the public hearing.
Second, Julie Picardi.
Okay, go ahead.
Motion to approve.
Second, Julie Picardi.
Roll call vote.
Dan,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Stephen,
Yes.
Fran.
Yes. Thank you. Your petition has been approved. You will get an email from Carla McGrath tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Number 5 is 17 Loris Road.
Notice is hereby given that the Board of Appeals of the City of Peabody will hold a public hearing via Zoom remote participation on Monday, July 6th, 7 p.m. on the application of Lingua Zhang for a variance from the provision of the zoning ordinance 2019 as amended section 715, as it applies to the premises known as 17 Loris Road, Peabody, map 40, lot 28. Petitioner seeks a variance for an accessory structure and requires relief to the side yard setback, rear yard setback, and lot coverage. Properties in an R1A zoning district. The application and plan are available to the public and can be viewed by contacting Carla McGrath or carla.mcgrath@pbdmass.gov or 978-538-5792 in advance and prior to the public hearing. The agenda for this meeting and instructions on how to access the remote participation platform are posted on the City of Peabody website.
I believe this is Attorney Kelty this evening.
Unmute, I'm in. Unmuted.
You have to unmute yourself and then you need to proceed. Jack, I'm sorry, Attorney Kelty, unmute.
Yes.
There you
So am I unmuted at this time?
Yes.
Okay. Am I also video?
No.
Huh. So I guess I can shut this off.
We're okay. We know what you look like.
Yeah, well, long hair now. My name is John Kelty. I'm an attorney. I have offices at 40 Lowell Street here in Peabody, Massachusetts. I'm appearing on behalf of Robert Clark and Linghu Zhang. They have purchased this property at 17 Loris Road back in 2018. They are proposing a shed, which shows on the plan. The shed is 42 by 40.2, I'm sorry, 40.2 and by 24.6. That's the size of the unit. The variances they seek are side yard, rear yard, and size of the unit itself, which is lot coverage. The the required rear yard is 5 feet. They have submitted a plan which shows their shed to be 2.7 feet from the rear yard. They require a 5-foot side yard on the right-hand side, and they have given you a plan which depicts a 1-foot side yard on that right-hand side. And the reason that the unit wants to be located in this particular location so close to the side yard is that there is a large tree in the center of the property. If we were to locate that plan on, I'm sorry, that tree on the plan that you have as part of this filing, the tree is at approximately halfway through the length of the shed. In other words, where it calls out the length of the shed at 40.2 feet, that is exactly where the large conifer tree is located. The tree indeed can be removed. It's 30 to 40 feet high. It provides privacy, it provides shade, not only to my clients, but also given its central-ishness to the rear yard, it does provide shade and privacy to other properties in the area, given its maturity and its size. My client, I would note to the board that if they've been into the neighborhood, the property immediately behind my clients, which is on Reynolds Road, property immediately to the right, which will be most impacted by this particular shed, and the property directly behind that property, which the property to our right is owned by the Griffins. Those 3 properties each have sheds which are much smaller than the shed that my client is proposing. However, they are all very, very close to the side yard, and they form a cluster of 3 sheds, kind of in the area where the 4 lots actually become contiguous to each other. Having pointed that out, we'd like to say that our effort is to preserve the tree. If the tree were to be removed, it would be not only expensive, but the tree would need to be removed right to the ground level, and perhaps even dug out with the root from the root system, such that it would not then dislodge or move the shed if the shed were to be centered in the rear of the lot. If that were to be the case, if the board was to feel that not requesting the rear and side yard would be more of a benefit to the neighborhood, we would still need the lot coverage, which the building commissioner's office, I think the building inspector has actually called out what the required square footage of this unit should be, and that is 105 square feet, and we have a 400 square foot proposal before you this evening. The shed will house materials that have been accumulated over a period of years by Mr. Clark with respect to his former employment and with respect to places where the couple has lived in the past. My client has, over a period of years, had off-site storage units. He had several 10 by 40, I'm sorry, he had several 8 by 40 containers that he rented, which were off-site. He has discontinued renting those. He would like to further discontinue renting those units and bringing that material onto the site where it would all be stored within the premises and not visible from the street or from any of our neighbors. There is a fence that runs along the entire property that is both on the left-hand side of the property, which shows as James Williams, and that fence also continues along the right-hand side of the property, along the property of the Griffins, and at the rear along the property of the Shalkowskis. We are happy to answer questions that the board may pose to us, and with that, I would turn the matter over to the board.
Thank you, Attorney Kelty. Yes, I have some concerns. My first concern is in looking over the application, I don't quite understand. We went to the city hall and were told oral guidelines that we were allowed to cover 30% of lot coverage and we will get the variance. I find that very hard to believe. City hall, whomever, from the building commissioner down to I don't know who, would never tell anybody that they can get a variance. What they would say is, you need a variance. So that being said, because of the pandemic, you tried many times and left messages, but could not get in touch with anybody. I find that very hard to believe because we have 8 that we're hearing tonight, and we have another 7 that we can hear in 2 weeks, and everybody else had a chance to contact the building department and get their permit and everything else that they needed. The next thing is we do not build and then ask for a variance because that's not how it works. If you need to build something, you need to get a building permit. I am under the impression that this was built without a building permit, or a building permit was had after the fact, after everything was already there. All of this I know is true, so I'm not going to hear any rebuttal on that. I would think at this point in time that people have heard enough of the variance proposals to know. And if you don't listen, then when you go to the building department, they will tell you first and foremost, you cannot build and then ask for a variance. You come to the building department and you come to the zoning board of appeals to get a variance because you don't meet any setbacks. The next thing is, I don't want to hear or even read that a shed company delivered something early. If you knew you needed a variance and you knew that you were having problems, then you just make a phone call and say, put it on hold. That seems plain and simple. The issue of the tree, I know many people, as I'm sure you do, my board, Attorney Kelty, and anyone else listening. If you want to build a house, a garage, a shed, a playhouse, and you have a tree in the way, and that's exactly where you want to put it, then you darn well better call a tree company and remove the tree. So this was placed in a very odd position, extremely odd position, and I also believe it was right on the property line. So across the board, I really don't know of any rebuttals right now that can be said to me that's going to change my mind that this absolutely cannot get approved. I'm only one vote, but this is ridiculous. And that's all I have to say.
Through the chair. Thank you, thank you. Through the chair to Mr. Kelty. How far is the tree from, I guess that would be the front of the shed? Now, does that front of the shed go right up against the tree? Is there 5 feet before you get to the tree? Is there 10 feet?
Now I'm unmuted.
Yeah, you are.
Okay. It is virtually inches away, so that the shed is very, very tightly placed between the tree itself and the property line, such that it's only a foot off the property line and it's inches off the tree.
So you could have put the shed on the other side of the tree. I think, and had it right in the middle of your property, correct?
There is room for that. It may have required a modification of the area that calls for where it says deck.
And a shed of that size, a modification wouldn't be unusual because you're buying an oversized shed, so you want to fit it into your yard. And all these questions lead me to believe that Ms. Galucci is absolutely correct. It was done and put in there on purpose, knowing that he didn't have the approvals. He could have modified the design. He could have measured. He could have done a lot of things prior than just ordering it and telling him to put it right there. Now, I understand about your 4 sheds coming together, and that makes sense, but I really doubt that the other 3 sheds that form that corner are the same size as this one. This is a rather large shed.
They are not nearly the same size as this.
Yeah, exactly. And you know something? I could almost agree with the petitioner if it was like a regular shed, the same size as the other 4, put in there, and it would make sense because all 4 would be clustered there. But a shed of this size, I think, should have done a little bit. You should have had a little more thought into it, made modifications, thought about, limiting the amount of relief that he was going to need. I think he just did what he wanted to do and put that shed there, to be honest with you, and hope for the best when all was said and done. So that's one thing I don't like. I don't like when things are done and you come to get permission. It's better to ask for forgiveness and permission because a shed of this size should have been thought out a lot better than this one has been. It was just stuck there, and I'll be honest with you, I don't think it belongs here. Thank you.
Through the chair. Fran, there's a couple of things in this file that I should probably read into the record. I see a memo from the building department, and I also see a letter from a neighbor. So if it's okay with you, Fran, I'd like to read those into the record.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. All right. So the first is that memo from the building department. It says, this is dated June 29th, to the zoning board, regarding the construction of an accessory structure without a permit, map 40, lot 28. Dear board members, on April 20th, 2020, the building department received numerous complaints from abutting neighbors concerning of an accessory structure at 17 Loris Road. On April 21st, 2020, I did a site visit and found that the owner had a 400 square foot accessory shed installed on the property without a permit. It also did not conform to zoning setbacks. After speaking with Robert Clark, who lives at 17 Loris Road, he thought he was complying. I informed him he was not and needed a permit and a variance for an accessory shed of that size. There was also a curb cut done that he informed me the Peabody DPS told him to go ahead and do. On April 28, 2020, the owner of 17 Loris Road, Ms. Zahn, applied for a permit, which I informed her she would need a zoning variance. And that's from Mark Menard, local building inspector. There's also a letter to the ZBA regarding 17 Loris Road structure. And this is from Patricia and Larry Griffin at 15 Loris Road in Peabody. I'll go ahead and read this letter. It's Dear Zoning Board of Appeals members, we have done our best to state below the following details regarding the storage building that was delivered at 17 Loris Road's backyard, which runs parallel to our fence at 15 Loris Road. I believe it's important to lay out the details. This past spring, our neighbor at 17 Loris started parking his vehicles on a strip of grass parallel to our driveway and referred to this land as his second driveway. He claimed he was given approval by the building inspector. He then removed the curbing on the sidewalk in front of the second driveway for easy access. Again, he claimed that the city, DPW, approved the removal of the curb. He later delivered a very large storage building in his backyard. The building has windows that can look out over my fence, which is 6 feet, and into my yard, which leaves me no privacy. The second driveway allowed him to back up directly into the new storage unit. I reached out to my counselor at large, Tom Gould, and advised him what was happening and could ask the city to intervene. He asked the building department to visit the site. The building inspector did arrive at my home, and he advised me that it appears that the building was too big for the lot. He asked us to be patient as the virus had closed the city hall offices and everything was going to take longer than normal. Over the last few weeks, tensions have escalated between myself and the other neighbors surrounding 17 Loris Road. The gentleman forbid anyone from parking on the street in front of his home where the curbing had been removed. He would yell at the neighbors and their visitors, claiming that this was his driveway, and their parking there prevented him from accessing his storage unit with his vehicle. A little over 2 weeks ago, tension skyrocketed where the neighbor was yelling at my wife to the point where the surrounding neighbors were concerned and the police were called. It was at this time we learned that the gentleman doing all these projects was not the property owner and had never received written approval or permit from any of the above listed projects. Since the incident above, the gentleman replaced the curbing with asphalt not completed and has stopped using the small piece of land as his second driveway. However, the storage unit is still in place and hinders upon our privacy in our backyard. We ask the zoning board members for your consideration to help remedy this situation by having the structure removed. Sincerely, Patricia and Larry Griffin of 15 Loris Road, Peabody, and they leave their phone number. That's it, Fran. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just briefly through the chair, not to belabor anything that's already been spoken on here, but a lot's been said about it being built and then asking for permission later. And while we are usually dead set opposed to anything that happens like that, I think in this instance, I don't think it even matters that it was built in advance, just for the record. I mean, essentially what I'm seeing here, a 40 by 10 foot shed is not a shed, in my opinion. A 40 by 10 foot is a storage container. It's like one of those Costco ones you'd see in the back of a semi, basically. And it sounds to me like there's an attempt to at least operate, maybe it's just storage, but it sounds like it's an attempt to operate some kind of business out of it, which I don't like. And it just seems totally out of fit with the area. It's not a normal size shed where you're okay, you know, needing a variance for 1 foot, 2 foot side yard, rear yard, whatever it might be. This thing it's almost bigger than a large portion of the home that it belongs to. So I agree with Barry that this should have been attached to the back of the house, some kind of modification, addition, or something if you need to store something in there. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Stephen. Any other comments by the board? I'm going to also ask Phone person 1277, are you here for this one?
Yes, this is Larry Griffin at 15 Loris Road. And the only other comment I wanted to make for all of you is that this shed that this man put beside my house cut out my privacy, as I said in the letter, but will also diminish the value of my house, because who's going to buy a house next to another house? It's almost the size of a trailer, right next to your property. I mean, that's what I look at when I look at this whole thing. Everything was done after the fact. The use of the car on the sideway on the side of his house, he claimed was approved by the city. The curb cutting was approved by the city. This was all planned. So he could bring this huge house in right at the beginning of COVID and put it in his backyard right next to my yard. And that's my only other comment to you, is that there's a value associated with that. Is how much is it going to cost me if you allow him to keep that building next to my house? Thank you.
Thank you very much. There's another phone call, 5193. Are you on for this one? Phone 5193, are you here for this petition?
No.
Thank you. Any other comments by the board?
I see two hands raised, Fran. Deborah Pelletier and Shiara Zhang.
We're going to allow Deborah Pelletier to speak. Deborah Pelletier.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for entertaining this. I live at 20 Loris Road, directly across from 17 Loris Road, and I'm just here to support the Griffins. The family at 17 Loris Road clearly disregarded the process and has been disruptive to the neighborhood. If you know this neighborhood, it's densely populated, and the shed is overbearing on the property. And I just want to support the Griffins in this. Thank you for your time and consideration.
And just so the board knows, thank you, Mrs. Pelletier. She's supporting the neighbor who just spoke, and that Dan read the letter into for us. Do we have another hand? Connor DiBiase, are you here for this one?
Yes, I am.
Okay, go ahead.
I live across the street at 22 Loris Road. So it was a Sunday morning, and we had our doorbell ringing and banging on our front door like someone was almost trying to get in. So we come to find out that one of our guests had parked in front of his temporary fake driveway where he chipped the curb out. So it's just that was to access his driveway. Also, I had my sister over one time, and she parked in front of there, and he told actually Larry next door that he was going to slash her tires if she ever did it again. So that's just my 2 cents. We're in support of the Griffins, and just kind of going from there, just 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Kelty, is there anything at all that you would like to say? I'm going to take that as
I'm unmuted now, correct?
Go ahead, Jack.
Yes. I do have a couple of things to say. In my presentation, I did not do the application, by the way. I did not raise the 1, 2, 3 issues that were in question number 17. There was a very definite miscommunication, but I don't think that necessarily warrants a statement that I heard earlier, which was that there would be no rebuttal. I don't think that's appropriate. We are not relying upon the miscommunications. We've tried to make the case this evening that the unit can be moved I would say once again to Mr. Osborne's comments that yes, we could remove the tree, take it down right to the ground, move so that the shed has the appropriate rear yard and side yard, even if that means cutting off a portion of the shed. But that will still, we would still require, even in moving it to the center of the yard, we would require lot coverage. The misunderstanding with respect to that first statement where my client suggests that he was told he could have 30% lot coverage, two different issues. One is, yes, total lot coverage, meaning your house, any sheds, any other structures on the property in the cumulative cannot exceed 30% of the entire lot size. In this instance, it's the size of the accessory structure which is requiring the variance. So as Inspector Menard has pointed out, they would be allowed 105 square feet, provided they met the side yard requirements. But this one is some 400 square feet. So I wonder whether the board would consider granting the variance for the size of the structure if we were to tear down the tree, move the unit such that it met the side and rear setbacks.
Thank
Through
you,
the
Jim.
chair. Through the chair.
Go ahead.
Just for a point of clarity for Attorney Kelty, because I'm sure he needs to run this by his client to determine what they might want to do with this. Just from my position, it doesn't really matter to me as I see it about the distance from the side, the rear setback and side yard. To me, it's more about the size of the unit itself, and that it is just so incredibly large. That, just so you're aware, that's my issue with it, my primary issue with it.
Thank you, Stephen. I think we might have, she already did.
Her hand is up again.
Ms. Pelletier, you don't want to speak again, do you?
No.
You're all set?
Hi, I'm so sorry. I do agree with Stephen Zelotes. It's really the size of the structure for this tight neighborhood. And so for us, we would like that removed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there phone numbers for my clients?
Ciara Zhang, that's next. Ciara Zhang, are you ready?
I'm here. I'm Robert Clark at 17 Loris Road. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
We can.
First off is I would like to respond to when earlier you had spoken and implied that I had no previous contact with the building department. I want to say approximately 1 year ago, I was in and had inquired about putting a storage container out here because, like Mr. Kelty had mentioned, that I actually have been paying for two 10 by 40 storage containers, and they were to inform me that being a temporary storage container was not allowed. It was only for 90 days, and I would have to remove it from the property. So at that time, I implied or had and asked him, well, what are my options? And he says, well, you can build whatever you want on there. And I don't know. Now you smile and you laugh. You look like I'm telling you some story. And then now this is at me actually standing inside the court, the town hall over there, actually speaking with Mr. Terenzoni and the supervisor, who his boss was, which I don't happen to actually catch his name, and so I cannot tell you who exactly the gentleman was that was standing with him that had told me that up to 600 square feet I could build. So I told him, well, 10 by 40, is that going to be okay? 400 square feet? He says that would be fine. Okay. Now that being said, and actually the reason that I was there was to ask him for a curb cut. He says, well, the DPW is way too busy you go ahead and do it. The only thing that we need from you is liability insurance in case you damage the street. Okay, I had the liability insurance and I cut the curb. Now, pushing all that out of the way, and you're implying, actually almost nearly calling me a liar, saying that I did not actually go down to town hall and confer with these people on that matter, which in fact I did. Almost a year later, now I go and I have a shed fabricated, and I had tried to apply online but unfortunately my computer skills are very poor. When I thought it was submitted, it actually in fact was not submitted, and I submitted it in like May. And then when I checked to see when March, I'm sorry, I apologize for that mistake. And then in April, when I see that it was actually not submitted, I was waiting for it and had no results on the return. Then I, in fact, had found out that it had not been submitted properly. So I had to resubmit. And then on April 28th is when it was actually submitted. And in fact, the shed was delivered early. I, in fact, did think that it was going to be 8 by 40, not 10 by 40. And it actually was come in as 10 by 40 and was delivered 2 weeks earlier than when I had expected it. So again, all that being said, now in respect with the next door neighbors across the street, they have parties over there. And in fact, their friends were too drunk to drive home and left their car there for 2 days, 3 days, in fact, on 2 separate occasions.
That is not anything that we are concerned with. Partying, cars parked. We're not concerned with that, sir.
Their piece and how bad a person I was and telling them. And I never said that I was going to slash their tires. And in fact, on the instance that Mr. Griffin was talking about where the police actually showed up out here, my wife had gone next door to confer with them and ask for, some sort of compassion as far as, allowing the shed. And she came back to my house crying.
Okay, so I think you've made your point. Remember, we're here for dimensional relief. We're not here for neighborhood da-da-das. It's not just you. We just don't, that's not pertinent.
You took their statement and
It was
listened to what
written
they had to say.
Yes, sir. It was written and we read it in. Now, you had your rebuttal. We understand where you're coming from. If there's anything else you'd like to say about dimensional relief, we'd be happy to hear it. Otherwise, we're going to move on.
Well, I had more than once said that I will do anything that it takes. And as far as you mentioning about that I called Mr. Terenzoni, 5 days in a row, I called and left messages on his machine, and he never once called me back.
And I will speak to him about that.
Well, he's already thrown me under the bus by telling the police officer that he never told me that I could cut the curb.
Okay, so we're not here for curbs. Are you all done now? Are we all set?
I believe I'm as done as I'm gonna be. I guess you pretty much have already made up your mind.
No, we have not, but thank you very much. We might have somebody else ready to speak. Mark O'Hara, I believe. Mark O'Hara, are you here to speak on this petition? Mark, if you want to speak, you have to unmute.
Okay. Hi, my name is Mark O'Hara. I live at 12 Reynolds Road. Larry and Pat Griffin are my neighbors right behind me. Best neighbors you could have. I'm not 100% against this shed. I'm about 2,000% against this shed. I'm surprised the neighbors would move into a neighborhood like that. That's all I gotta say. I'm against that shed. I hope it never gets to stay there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay. I think we've heard as much as we need to hear. So the matter is now before the board.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Second.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Dan,
No.
Barry,
No.
Julie,
No.
Stephen,
No.
Fran.
No. Sorry, the motion does not pass. You will get an email from Carla McGrath tomorrow. Thank you. We are now going on to number 6, Barlow signs.
Notice is hereby given that the Board of Appeals of the City of Peabody will hold a public hearing via Zoom remote participation on Monday, July 6th at 7 p.m. on the application of Barlow signs for a variance from the provision of the zoning ordinance 2019 as amended section 11.5.1c as it applies to the premises known as 1 Andover Street, Peabody. Map 64, lot 19. Petitioner seeks a variance to erect a freestanding sign in a BN zoning district. This is allowed only if there is a setback of 30 feet or more from the existing building. The existing building is 21.8 feet from the lot line. Petitioner also proposes a height of said sign at 20 feet when 12 feet is allowed. The application and plan are available to the public and can be viewed by contacting Carla McGrath at carla.mcgrath@peabodymass.gov or 978-538-5792 in advance and prior to the public hearing. The agenda for this meeting and instructions on how to access the remote participation platform are posted on the City of Peabody website.
Thank you. I believe, Brandon, you're here for this?
Yes. Good evening, everybody. My name is Brandon Courier. I am at 23 McKelwin Street in Merrimack, New Hampshire, and I am in the room alone for the record. I am here on behalf of Domino's there. We are seeking approval to allow a 20-foot high illuminated pylon sign with a 1-foot setback from the property line. As you guys are aware, this is a very dangerous and busy intersection. With this sign, it increases the visibility. It provides drivers with that much more time to make a safe decision when crossing traffic to enter into that property. For example, if you're coming down Pulaski Street, the only safe way to enter the property is by taking North Central Street. At the point where you actually see the building where Domino's is located, you've already passed that, and then you have to go into that intersection and make a turn to come back around. This sign would not be visually distracting or in any way safety-wise for drivers passing through this intersection, and it is out of the line of sight due to the height that it is. Citgo and the Town Variety, they both have similar pylons, and they are located in that same intersection. Thank you.
Okay, I have a couple of concerns. One being that Domino's has been there for quite a long time. And correct me if I'm wrong, but, and I'll mute myself for your answer. Domino's is still just takeout, is that correct?
To the best of my knowledge, as of right now, I believe yes. But I can't speak to that exactly because I'm not sure of the current situation with COVID-19 in Massachusetts, and specifically Peabody.
So it's basically takeout. And it's been there for a while. And looking at the picture, that parking lot is very, very small and very shallow. Mm-hmm. So where it is situated, one of my concerns is somebody backing out. Mm-hmm. There's a good possibility we'll probably rear end it. The car will rear end part of that. That's one of my concerns. The other concern is this is an extremely busy intersection. And yes, it is a very dangerous intersection. I believe that the sign would be a distraction. And quite personally, I personally don't think it is necessary to put such a large sign in that location at this point in time. But I'm sure we'll hear from other members of the board.
Through the chair? Well, thank you, Madam Chairman. And I will say this, that I'm one of those lucky Peabodyites that grew up in Gardner Park. So I knew Wilson Square very well. And I hate to disagree with you, but I do. I disagree with you. I do think it'll be a distraction. I don't know why you need a sign of such size there. I don't think it's really necessary. The sign, the zoning ordinance allows certain signs. I don't think we need to go above and beyond. There's a reason you're putting all those bollards around that post. It's because you're afraid people are going to back into that sign because of the I don't know, there's not an awful lot of room in that parking lot. There's also an electric box there. People coming out of North Central Street that want to turn right. Yes, there's a light there, but what's your line of sight going to be? Are those bollards going to, between the electric box and those bollards, is that going to infringe on their line of sight? Maybe. Maybe yes, they're going to be 6 feet high or something like that. I see 3 feet high. So sitting in a car, I don't know if you'll be able to see around them. And to be honest with you, Domino's, very successful business. Glad to have them in the city. But I'll be perfectly clear. If I'm going to buy a pizza from Domino's, I know exactly where I'm going to pick up that pizza. I don't need a 20-foot sign to point the way. I doubt very much that many people are going to drive more than a 5 miles radius to get their pizza there. There's an awful lot of places you can get pizza, and Domino's one of them, and they're good. You make your money on the delivery. I love your no touch delivery and all of that stuff. It's a great company. I'm not saying that it's not, but there's really no need for a 20-foot sign to say this is a Domino's. The local desirable need, all that stuff is not there. I think anybody who lives in that area that's going to buy a pizza from Domino's knows exactly where they're going to go. They're going to know exactly how to navigate Wilson Square. Because if you live anywhere near Wilson Square, you learn very quickly how to navigate through Wilson Square because it's an art form. What lane you get into if you want to go up towards Pulaski Street and all of that. So I'll be honest with you, I don't see the need for a 20-foot sign. I don't think it's going to improve any traffic. I think Domino's brand could be clearly displayed with other than a 20-foot tall sign, a sign that might conform with the zoning ordinance. You want to rebrand, that's great, but I don't see the need for a sign that size. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. Any other comments from members of the board? Do we have a phone here? 5193, are you here for this? Person 5193, am I reading that correctly? Are you here for this petition? Miss Manning Martin, are you here for this?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, excellent. Thank you very much. And I'd like to thank Carla McGrath for getting me out the plan that was presented and the information to prepare for this meeting. I appreciate it very much. And you're all doing a great job on your first Zoom meeting. I commend you. First off, my name is Ann Manning Martin, and I'm a property owner down in that area. And I also grew up in that area right at Wilson Square, so I know it very well. And you've already touched upon some of the concerns, you and Councilor Osborne. So I may reiterate them and I may add other concerns. The electrical box on the corner of Pulaski and Andover, where the sign is going, it's really tall. I think in the plan that was presented, they say it's about 5.5 feet high, and it's pretty wide. So that in and of itself is always a safety concern. It's been there for a long time, but it's unusually large and in a very bad location. So to add to it with with a 20-foot sign would raise major safety concerns at that intersection where the petitioner has already admitted that it's a very dangerous and busy intersection. It absolutely is. And if you can see from the picture that was presented, there's also, you've mentioned the yellow, what are those called, Barry? What do you call them, ballasts? What, the 3-foot, what are those called? Anyway, to protect the sign, those yellow they're 3 feet high. So that adds more a line of sight blockage right next to the electrical box. And if you look right over to the right of the electrical box, there's a monopole that is probably 2 feet wide. So there's a whole bunch of busyness going on at a very dangerous intersection. And the height of this sign as proposed, I believe, is even higher than the referenced Chevron, or it used to be Chevron, now I guess it's Citgo. I believe it's a lot higher than that. And to also stress on the safety concerns of that area, at a recent city council meeting, as recently as our last meeting, the issue of pedestrian safety came up at that very intersection where this sign is proposed to go, that we made a motion to have the traffic division take a look at the timing on the pedestrian light, because folks were running across and taking their lives in their hands, as they indicated, just across that street, perhaps to get to Domino's. So hopefully we'll fix that so they can get over to Domino's. So those are some concerns. And also, I wanted to point out, this may be a BN zone, but that BN zone where Domino's is surrounded by R1 and R1A. It's all surrounded by residential. So if you take a look at the picture that was presented, you old-time Peabody people recognize Violet's there. You know, Violet's 1, 2, 3. It's now the gray building. It used to be Violet's. And then there's a little residential. It's a greenhouse. That's a residential house. So I can only imagine adding more chaos down to that corner is going to make it more difficult for those residents to get in and out of their driveways and into their homes. It may be helpful for the petitioner to say that it's helpful for Domino's for people to get in and out, but I don't think this sign is going to be helpful to the residents of that area to get in and out of their driveway, because they're just adding more of a calamity to an already stressed intersection, I believe. And lastly, again, it's surrounded by an R1 and an R1A residential area. So do we really want to be dropping signs that light up in a residential area? Again, those houses that I just mentioned, how bright is this sign going to be? Is it going to be lighting up their living rooms and their bedrooms when there was no sign at all before? I certainly wouldn't want that next to my house. It might light up like, you know, Viva Las Vegas, and that's not anything I would want next to my house. The size of that sign, it does say it's 20 feet high, but it says it's 8 feet in length. So I think that it's even going to come lower and block more of the line of sight than that picture presents. Because 8 feet down from 20 is only 12 feet up from the ground. And if that electrical box is 5.5 feet, that it's a lot tighter than that picture presents, I believe. And I think that if you have a tractor trailer taking that right from Pulaski onto Andover Street, I think that sign will block their view. It's completely hovering over cars. So cars are completely blocked, but I think it may block the line of sight of tractor trailers at a very busy intersection where it's difficult to make that turn for a tractor trailer. And it is Route 114, and that's where all the tractor trailers are going and are routed to down Gardner Park. Thank you for listening to me, and I appreciate all your work, and thanks for volunteering for the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann.
You're still muted, Fran.
Oh, I'm sorry, 5193. Are you here for this? Okay, anybody else from the board wish to comment? Mr. Brandon, do you want to respond to anything?
Yes, I do understand that you guys are saying that this is, obviously we agree that this is a very dangerous intersection, and you guys are from the area, so you do experience this every day. Me, as someone from outside of the area coming in, it is extremely tough to navigate. And I know that the case was made by Mr. Osborne about people that are ordering from Domino's could potentially just be from that area. But there also is people driving from outside of town. I mean, it's a very close snip to the highway. People could just be getting off the highway in that sense. I'm sorry, the miss who just spoke on the phone, I believe Anne was her name. She mentioned about the visual representation of the height of the sign, about 12 feet of clearance underneath. For a tractor trailer, I do understand that that may be an issue, but most tractor trailers are the top of the box trucks aren't even past that. But I do understand that it is a tight parking lot, and I think that people driving down from further distance are going to benefit from seeing this sign more than just like the individuals who partake in it every day in this area and intersection.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Any other comments by people, the board members? Okay, hearing none, the matters before the board.
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second, Barry Osborne.
Go
So,
ahead.
motion to accept?
Second,
Roll call vote.
Dan,
No.
Barry,
no.
Julie,
Nope.
Stephen,
No.
Fran.
No. Sorry, that petition is denied, and you will get an email from Mrs. McGrath tomorrow. Thank you very much. We're on
Thank
to
you.
number 7, Daniel
Can I ask a
Delheim.
question? Can I ask a question real
Notice is
quick?
hereby given that the Board of Appeals of the City of Peabody will hold a public hearing via Zoom remote participation on Monday, July 6, 2020, 7 p.m. on the application of Daniel Delheim, care of Mark Bergeron, for a variance from the provision of the zoning ordinance 2019, as amended section 7.2 as it applies to the premises known as 9 Intervale Ave, Peabody, map 1, lot 48. This petitioner seeks a variance for proposed addition and requires relief to the rear yard setback where 35 feet are required and 24.6 feet are proposed. Property is in an R1 zoning district. The application and plan are available to the public and can be viewed by contacting Carla McGrath or carla.mcgrath at peabodymass.gov or 978-538-5792 in advance and prior to the public hearing. The agenda for this meeting and instructions on how to access the remote participation platform are posted on the City of Peabody website.
Thank you, Dan. Do we have somebody? We have somebody called owner. Are you here for this?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's me, Mark Bergeron. I clicked
Okay,
on
thank you. Go ahead.
Mark Bergeron, 120 rear Montvale Ave, Woburn, Mass. I am the contractor for the Delheims, and they would like to add a addition on the back of their property, basically like an in-law apartment. I believe you call it Fowler. And we are seeking a rear yard setback variance. The required is 35 feet, and we're proposing 24.6 feet.
Okay, I'm sure everybody has read that Mrs. Delheim is going to have her, I believe it's her daughter and son-in-law live with her. The father obviously is ready to get approved, but it does need the condition of the variance. And I see no problem with this at this time. And so we'll see what the board has to say. Any questions by the board?
No, through the chair, just as a comment, I'm glad you told us that the file was going to be approved and that it's been submitted to the building inspector for approval. I'd hate to approve this and then find out that it was going to be something other than a Fowler. So if that's the case and the Fowler application is in for consideration by the building inspector, I don't really see a problem with this. It, sort of makes sense to me. I don't think it's going to be egregious to anybody. I don't see any correspondence from any butters that it's going to be a problem. So again, as long as they go through the Fowler process, I have no problem the way it sits right now. Thank you.
And I don't believe there's anybody in the at-home audience. I don't see anybody. Carla, do you? Nobody raising their hands. Anybody from the board have any other questions or concerns?
No questions or concerns, but through the chair, I suppose once we do close the public hearing and we move forward, we probably want to make a motion to approve with the condition that the Fowler procedure is complied with.
Absolutely, yes, thank you. Okay, then, matters before the board.
A motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Do we want to put that condition in?
Yeah.
Sorry, that's short-term memory here. Yeah, motion to approve with the condition that all requirements with respect to having the FALA approved are taken and that it is actually approved by the city.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Dan,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Stephen,
Yes.
Fran,
Yes. Motion is approved, the petition is approved, and you will get an email from Mrs. McGrath tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And number 8, Michael and Teresa Berardino.
Notice is hereby given that the Board of Appeals of the City of Peabody will hold a public hearing via Zoom remote participation on Monday, July 6, 2020, 7 p.m. on the application of Michael and Teresa Berardino for variance from the provision of the zoning ordinance 2019 as amended section 7.2 as it applies to the premises known as 43 King Street, Peabody, map 84, lot 17. Petitioner seeks a variance to construct an addition and requires relief to the side yard setback. Properties in an R1A zoning district. The application and plan are available to the public and can be viewed by contacting Carl McGrath at carlo.mcgrath@peabodymass.gov or 978-538-5792 in advance and prior to the public hearing. The agenda for this meeting and instructions on how to access the remote participation platform are posted on the City of Peabody website.
Thank you. Teresa Berardino, are you ready?
Yes, can you hear me? Great. This is Teresa Berardino, 43 King Street homeowner. I'm here with my husband, Michael, and we are proposing to change an existing front porch structure, just bringing it out 10 feet more. The only issue we have is with the side yard setback where we need 15 feet and there's 5 feet between our property and the fence of our neighbor's property.
Comments, concerns from the board?
No, just through the chair. Just it looks from the plan as though this will stay directly in line with the rest of the house.
Yes, correct.
I don't believe there's anyone in the home audience to speak in opposition or for this. I don't see anybody. Raise your hand. Nope. I don't have any questions on this either or concerns. So I believe now the matter is before the board.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second, Steve Zalotis.
Move to approve.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Dan,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Stephen,
Yes.
Fran,
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion is approved, and you will get an email tomorrow from Carla.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So now we do we have to approve minutes?
we approve minutes.
I believe we have to approve minutes from March. Could we do that?
Move to approve the minutes from the March meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The only other, the only other thing, can we discuss next meeting?
Yeah, you have to
27th.
set up the next meeting, if when, you know, how it's gonna be.
Should we adjourn first? No.
No.
Okay, everybody, so we can't adjourn first, and if anybody out in the audience, I would imagine is listening to us, which is fine. But I think that went great. Yay! I thought this was really, really, I can't thank you enough. This was fabulous. So we still have probably how many before the 40Bs? Another 8? We have another 12 before the 40Bs. It is 8:37 and we have done 8. So if you want to have a little discussion on, you know, what you'd like to do if we're around, Carla will give us the next earliest date. What's the next earliest date we could meet legally?
Was the 27th discussed, Carla?
We could meet the 27th of July, which is 3 weeks from today.
Unless you want to meet earlier.
No, we can't because of the
Notice.
the legal ads.
I'm open to the 27th.
I'm good for the 27th.
Is that yes?
Yeah.
Anybody that's here tonight, is the 27th of July a problem?
Depends on the baseball schedule.
Yeah, we don't know yet. Thanks, Barry.
Oh, that's right.
It's under lock and key. They're not publishing it until the city issues their game permit, so.
Well, Barry, myself, Stephen, Eddie, and Julie, are you good?
Yes.
We're good. Eddie's,
Okay, so what I'm going to say right now is it looks like our next meeting will be a Zoom meeting unless something drastically changes. But prepare for another Zoom meeting. Hopefully it will be the very last Zoom meeting for this board and we can start meeting in person and I can hug all of you. No. The other thing I wanted to say was, shall we do all 12?
Try it, yeah.
I think so. Just get them out of the way.
Okay, so 7 o'clock on July 27th will be our next scheduled Zoom Board of Appeals meeting. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and I believe now we can have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Having so much fun. Why do we want to adjourn?
I don't know. Look, and it's not
I
even
want to adjourn. So motion to adjourn. Let's go.
Okay, this was great. I will be in touch and I can't thank you enough. You all were great. I really appreciate it.
Thanks. Good night, everybody.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
Have a good night.